Okay.
She's actually probably one of the strangest things that I've made in a while. And
Right.
it's a two-headed doll. And she's got
Oh,
it's like one on top of the other. She doesn't have like arms. They're just kind of like little gathers and puffs on the sleeves, and she has this
right.
little veil and a very long
Hi,
skirt.
guys, and welcome to episode 8 of Boys Can Play with Dolls. Today, on our interview, I have had the pleasure of interviewing Casey from Alabama, and he is going to show us some of his homemade, or should I say, handmade dolls. So, check out his interview. Here we go.
Okay. Well, I am Casey Roberts. I am from a little town called Marion, Alabama. Um, if anyone is familiar with the Selma March for civil rights and American history, Marion is where it began, and then it went off to
Right.
Selma. And Marion, I've lived here for 8 years now, but I'm from like down the road in a
Right.
smaller town called Linden. So I've lived in what's called the Black Belt in Alabama my entire life, which is a very unique region and culture down here. I love this place.
Ah, awesome. Brilliant. Loving the collection behind you. It's
Thank you.
nice. It's the first time I've seen vintage dolls, I think, on
Yeah.
my chat. So this is going to be fun. So, okay. So Casey, so what we'll do is we'll start off with the first question. All right.
All right.
And the first question is, when did you know you wanted to start collecting dolls?
When I was a kid, I mean, I played with Barbies and dolls my whole life. When I was growing up and stuff like that. There's a totally hair skipper in the background of one of my childhood photographs.
Right.
So it's always been in my life. But the main thing that stuck with me is in our living room. Growing up, my mom had this floor to ceiling china cabinet with mirrors in the back, and it was just full of they were just those mass produced like porcelain dolls from the 80s that you see in thrift stores now for like $5 that no one cares about.
Yeah.
And she had them all from like when she was a teenager, and I just always looked at them and pined for them, and she wouldn't let me touch them. But then
Mhm.
I started finding my own when I would go with my great grandmother to flea markets and stuff like that, and I would start putting like my little collections amongst hers, that I could play with and fiddle with and stuff like that. So it's been with me for my entire life. But as an adult, I got into it, kind of as a I wanted to, start. I had, lost a bunch of stuff when I moved
Mhm.
to Marion, and I didn't have a whole lot of things from my childhood. And so I started collecting like the dolls and things that I wanted when I was a
Mhm.
kid. And then it evolved, because I'm an artist. I paint, and I started sewing clothes, and then it evolved into doll making. So these dolls that you see are a mixture of dolls I've both collected and made.
Awesome.
And so it's a different kind of collection. I do collect dolls that are made and manufactured, but I also make my own dolls a lot of the
Right.
times. Bulk of my collection is also just made by me, with things that I want to see or make.
Yeah.
Uh, but it's not all of it. There's a lot of it
There's
too.
a lot more. Yeah. This
There's a
is
lot
just
more.
the little teaser for everybody at home sort of thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, Casey, great collection. Um, so let's move on to the next question. So what was your first doll line, or doll company or brand? And what is it you love most about collecting?
Well, I guess doll brand wise, that would go to like Barbie. Also like Polly Pocket.
Yeah.
I feel like everyone kind of has a Barbie, but
Yeah.
Polly Pocket's the other one. Um, brand, I mean, like specific doll wise, the first one, he's right here. He goes with me
Mm-hmm.
everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
He's this little Woody that
Oh.
I've had since I was 2 years old.
Oh, wow.
He's really dingy and really beat up.
Right.
He has like his nose is partially missing and stuff. He's super dingy. He's like just beat up. But
Yeah, it's super cool to see that you still have something from that long ago. I mean, you can tell he was well loved.
oh yeah, he slept with me every night.
Yeah.
I take a bag with me, everywhere I go, and so he's always like there, just like with me.
Yeah.
He's just kind of like my like good luck charm, but like
Right.
kind of thing. I don't know. Like it's just he's if I had to do like away with every single one of these, he's like the only one I couldn't part with.
You would keep.
But I love having fun with these dolls. I love looking at them. I love dressing them because since I also make them, I can make dresses for them and different clothes for them. So I love to like change things up about them, and with making dolls, I can always make something I haven't seen before, or and so there's a lot of creative freedom combined with the fun and play that comes along with having a doll around. You naturally want to fiddle with it and play with it and do different things with it, and there's lots of avenues that I've explored all over with. I've made all different kinds and have interacted and dressed with and played with all different kinds of them.
So would you say the Woody one, he's your favorite?
No, definitely. He's definitely the favorite out of all
he's
of
the
them.
favorite. He's the best doll.
Yeah.
No, totally understandable when it's something that's come from your childhood. It just, it's got that like nostalgia, and obviously it's something you was attached to, obviously, so it's nice. I'm glad he's still surviving and he's with your collection. None of my dolls made it to adulthood. Nothing made it to adulthood, unfortunately. I think I have one thing, and actually you can see it, like, just, I don't know if you can see that. There's a tiny little Alice in Wonderland ceramic figurine that's sitting on a toadstool. Don't know if you can see that around here somewhere.
A little bit, yeah.
There's from 1998. My gran bought me that when we were in Florida, first Disney trip, and I was about 8 or 9. So that's the only thing I have. So tell a lie, that is the only thing I do have. So I feel I totally understand. So if that broke, I think I would be gutted. Buying another one. Sorry?
Just a little devastated.
Yeah, I would be pretty heartbroken. My gran's not with us anymore, so it would never be the same, would it, to buy it again? And it's so I totally understand that. So okay, Casey, so next question is, if funds were unlimited, what doll would you have to absolutely have in your collection, regardless of how much it cost?
This is going to be a deep cut, because I don't think really anyone who collects dolls that are my age would even care about these things. But they're called Ella Smith dolls, and they are from like the turn of the century, and she's the only like famous and only known doll maker, like manufacturer from Alabama. And me and my husband both have, he's from here in Marion, so we both have a vested interest in Alabama history and Alabama folk art, anything that comes from Alabama. And when I found out about this woman, I started looking into her processes. I started looking into the dolls that she made, and she was very, very unique. She's not really well known except by like antique collectors.
Mm-hmm.
But they were called Alabama Indestructible dolls
Mm.
because she started out by repairing like these kind of China head dolls for her
Wow.
neighbors and things like that. And then she invented a cloth doll that had like plaster and coating and wax and all kinds of stuff over it. So the rumor was that you could run over it with a truck, with like a truck, and it wouldn't break.
Right. Right.
And and her there's plenty of her dolls still around, but they're very expensive. They're like $1,000 for a
Wow.
doll, and they're not. I mean, they're not cute or anything like that. They're
Oh.
actually kind of haunting looking sometimes because like they got cracking and yellowing, and because they're over 100 years old.
Right.
But they're super neat. They're hand painted. They're made, by
Yeah.
largely all women in Alabama in this small factory. So it's super super neat, and just
Yeah.
like a little bit of local history that I just would really like to have, not only
How?
as a doll but as a historical testament to Alabama.
Yeah. Yeah. It's quite nice that, your dolls, you don't just collect them, but you also like the history behind them and stuff like that. So that's really unique and different as well. So I love that. So for the next question, Casey, so this one is, what is your experience with friends and family behind your doll collecting?
It's been a little bit different for me because of the angle of me also making them. It's been a very positive reception for me. Last December, I had my first ever like art show over
Okay.
in Selma, and then as time has gone on and I've gone to more festivals and fundraisers and markets and stuff like that, and put my stuff out there more and more.
Mm-hmm.
Um, One of the main things that people constantly react to very positively and respond to are the dolls. And
Right.
people I just finished up underneath all of these is a bunch of dolls that I'm about to go take over to someone who just commissioned a bunch of them from me.
Right.
It's really different, my experience with it, because it's been very overwhelmingly positive.
Yeah.
It's been very validating. People are very interested. People want to know more about the process, about the collection, about what I'm intrigued by, because
Right.
that's where the doll collecting comes in, is the things that inform what I make or what I put out there and what I look for. And I also just kind of become a home for like wayward dolls that people don't want anymore.
Mm.
Um, and so uh, and so I'm like taking in things on top of making my own and collecting here and there the things that I can, when I find them, because I try to collect things that I don't see a whole lot of, and that
Yeah.
I never try to collect like all the same things. I don't try to collect all like Barbies, all Disney,
Mm.
all Bratz, or something
Yeah.
like that. It's way more rewarding to have a variety for
Variety
me.
of dolls.
Yeah, so I can
Yeah.
kind of see how they're made and how people use them, people interacted with them. It's way more useful for me
Yeah.
to have that kind of insight into all of these things.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
But yeah, so how's, like, for you, how was your, like, parents, how did they feel about it?
well, my mother, when she was alive, was very, I don't know, she always bought me, dolls and things like that. When I was a kid, she never really discouraged it whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it wasn't until I was just kind of, going between place to place, when I was growing up, and starting to kind of lose the dolls and lose the things that I had growing up.
Yeah.
From move to move and place to place, that I kind of didn't really like distance myself. It wasn't like I wasn't interested in dolls anymore. It's just like I just didn't have a capacity or a need or a any kind of thought of like, you know, I could keep this could you stay with me, you know, until I was an adult and, you know, living on my own, and married, you know, well, not on my own, but living, you know, married life and being able to, you know, explore my adult life. And then it turned into, you know, me wanting to reconnect with these pieces and dolls that I had and grew up with and knew. And so, you know, I haven't had a negative experience except maybe like once in a while when I was a kid, you know, and it would be like at school and, you know, you're playing with a Barbie with all the other, you know, girls and, you know, it looks strange. But it wasn't, but like, you know, that doesn't really stick with me. Like it doesn't or anything like that. You know, it's not a super traumatic memory for me. And it, you know, and it's only made better by, you know, me and my dolls and all of that being so well received.
No, that's great. No, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. So we've kind of touched upon this, but because I know, like you said, you love the history behind the dolls and things like that. So let's talk about some other reasons why you enjoy the dolls. You know, I'm guessing you kind of, like you said, you design them, make them. So yeah, feel free to elaborate on that side of it. Because I usually ask people, do they dress them, change them, customize them? But I don't know if that's something you do with yours. But your might be something out, you know, like you make them, change them up a little bit. So tell us more about that.
So I do that as well. Like for instance, I got this this is one of the first dolls I collected as an adult. She's a clone doll from a vintage Barbie, named a Miss Babette. She has these chubby little baby arms.
Okay, I've not seen her before.
And she has a gigantic bald spot and hole in the back of her head. So I had to cover that up somehow. And this is like an old dress from a Barbie. It was like the only one I could find that could fit her because she's very curvaceous. And some old Barbie shoes. But mostly, and I'll make, you know, different outfits and garments for them. But or I'll give them like accessories. There's this wood. She looks porcelain, but she's actually wooden.
Wow, that's different.
Hear the knocking in her feet. And I gave her just this little freshwater pearl necklace that I had lying around, and some costume jewelry. And so I'll do things like that. I made this doll, which is
cool.
She's a 4'1" little babushka lady, and she's got awesome. Like a rosary that a friend gave me, this 50s house dress that I dyed in onion skins, this apron that was my husband's grandmother's, and then, you know, when I look at dolls that I want to do, sometimes I think about like characters that I like I just did this Alice in Wonderland series with this
I'm a huge Alice in Wonderland fan, so that will work for me.
I don't know why it's being so blurry, but I you know, it's got Alice and I have the cat
awesome.
Red Queen Hatter, all of it. And that's like one of the only series that I've done other than like the Bronte sisters. And so it's different, and but also people ask me to make things for them, or I'll like I'm really into paper dolls, especially right now. And one of the famous ones is Betsy McCall, and I found that they had a ragdoll pattern of her, so I gave her these Victorian porcelain doll shoes. Well, it's not Victorian, but
Yeah.
it's one of those mass-produced porcelain dolls. I
Yeah.
gave her some shoes from there and this doily and this wonderful little dress I made with this yellow fabric and all this lace, and she's got a petticoat and
Nice.
things like that.
Yeah. So
When
so
I
your enjoyment, you do create so much handmade stuff for the dolls.
Yeah, and that's where a lot of the enjoyment comes from,
Yeah.
and the enjoyment comes from like the variety
Mm.
of things to do. Like both of these dolls here I
I quite
made.
like those. They're quite different. I like them. They're very, very vintagey looking, like Victorian times.
Yeah, this is my Queen Victoria. It's
Oh,
based on
okay.
her wedding dress. These both were like these unpainted china head dolls that I found in a thrift store.
Right.
And this one I made a cloth body for, and her entire wedding dress, even though it's white, so it's blinding
Yeah.
in the sunlight. But then there's, her, and I gave her this old porcelain doll body.
Oh, okay.
So it's just her head on one of these old
Right.
porcelain
So you've
dolls.
popped the head on to the body. So is that because I think if I remember rightly, porcelain dolls have this massive, great big neck thing with holes in it, right?
Yeah.
So that you can sew them in. Is that how you do it?
Yeah, so you put a piece of cord or what they call bias tape, which is just basically ribbon, through with those holes, and then you sew the ribbon
Right.
onto the body. Um,
Ah. They're
and
very
then
they're very unique, very different. It's nice to see that you've created so many different styles and looks with bits and bobs, that you found and give them life. So I think it's all about, enjoying your dolls, but giving them life is something else as well.
right,
So yeah, no, that's
right.
awesome.
Yeah, that's the name of the game for me. It's just
Yeah,
having fun with it all. If
yeah.
you're not having fun with it, you're not
You're not
enjoying it.
enjoying it, and that's
Yeah,
right. And if you're not enjoying it, they're just there.
yeah.
So
Just do something else then.
yeah,
Like,
definitely. So Casey, so this probably be quite a good question for you. So I haven't seen any of it, but I imagine so do you photograph your dolls in public? And if you do, have you ever had any weird or strange feedback while you've been clicking out in public or snapping on your phone?
I don't necessarily in public. I have taken them obviously to public places. This Sunday, actually, I'm doing a Pride festival,
Yeah,
and bringing them out in public. So they're always in public and getting photographed,
yeah,
in public. But not really. No.
no,
It's mostly just a lot of intrigue, like just asking, like, because it's not often people find someone who makes dolls, and so
yeah.
they just want to know more usually when they see them. I haven't had, but I haven't really photographed them in public, because usually when I
Mm,
make them, it's so immediate, and I'll just like take them out into my yard, or I'll have them on my kitchen table, and I just
yeah.
photograph right away, right as I finish them. Um, so I haven't necessarily ever like posed them in public, or because I know that like some people like take their like BJDs and their model muses and stuff out in public, and like do like really involved like Central Park
Yeah.
fashion shoots. I haven't done anything like that, but I have thought about it,
Mm,
especially with like a certain collection or something like that of dolls. But I've never done that particularly.
yeah. No, that's fair enough. Each their own and everything. Obviously, with doll collecting, it's
Oh yeah.
it's something that seems to be, I mean, like you said, even if you're at home, you probably take pictures and stuff, and like you said, other people probably take pictures of your dolls for, the fact that you're out and about and showing them off and stuff. Yeah, brilliant. Okay, thank you, Casey. So for this next question, so was you ever bullied for collecting dolls? And if so, what was your like worst ever experience that you can remember, like that far back?
Well, I kind of alluded to it earlier.
Yeah.
It would mainly be like it was like preschool years. So like
Mm.
I hardly remember this, but it was stuff
Yeah.
where it was like, oh, he's playing with Barbies and things like that.
Yeah.
Um, I mean that it didn't really get any, nastier than that, I
Mm.
mean there were far worse things that happened to me later on that had nothing to do with dolls or doll
No.
collecting. But like but never something that like really stuck with me. I just remember one time
Mm-hmm.
when I was like a teenager, I was probably like 13. We used to go down to the river all the time. That's like going to the beach for us is going to the river.
Yeah.
And one day there was someone there who like I guess I knew. I don't know. I still don't know if I knew them. They knew me, and they were
Mm-hmm.
like, "Oh yeah, there's this guy, and he used to play with Barbies and stuff like that." And we could hear them like, oh, and it was like my mom was there, so it was like really weird, and their
Mm.
parents were there, so it was like why, like what's going on here with this? It was
Mm-hmm.
very strange, but and then my mom like stepped in and everything, and it was fine. Basically, I always was like protected,
Mm.
in a sense, either by myself or by my mom or my great grandmother or something like
Yeah.
that. So I never really got it too bad, and
Right.
there's not anything specifically associated with my collecting that has like ever uh it's been a huge source of bullying for me. But it's also maybe because I've kind of kept it a lot to myself. I don't
Right.
my adulthood is like the first time I've been like really open
Yeah.
about like my fascination and fixation on dolls,
Yeah.
and so it's a different climate altogether than from
Mm-hmm.
if I had done that when I was growing up. And
Yeah. Yeah.
so maybe I had a little bit of my wits about me, who knows, but
Yeah, no, that's yeah, of course, yeah. Maybe he was a bit more aware or worried, maybe what people might have said. So, you avoided the situation. Obviously when I was growing up, I was oblivious. I used to take my dolls to school, and I was known as the Barbie boy for the rest of my school life, I think. Um, because I used to just take them to school. I
yeah,
didn't know. You just don't know at that age that people are gonna not like what you do, and then not like you because of it. It's funny how you learn, but it's also I'm glad there's so many of you guys that have been interviewing that haven't been bullied for it. And some people say a lot of their times being bullied was through family, which is quite sad as well. I mean, I didn't have so much of that because my mum, dad, and my brother was always fine. Maybe aunties, uncles, they were close ones were fine. A bit more outer was a bit more like had an opinion, didn't really
yeah,
care. Still, far from caring now, obviously, for doing these things. But yeah, no, I think it's a very important question, obviously, to ask everyone, and also, to see what their stories are. But yeah, no, thank you for sharing that, and I am glad that you didn't have to go through anything that was too much untoward, for you to deal with at such a young age. So this is going to be, I think, a really, really good question for you. So your doll collection is completely different, okay, and which is great. I love variety. And I'm going to ask you, so what is your most strangest thing you have in your collection? I feel like you might have something.
oh yeah, I mean, if it wasn't this 4'1" alien woman that I made,
Yeah,
well,
yeah,
I don't know.
absolutely.
There's I just made this one actually, and she's
Okay,
actually probably one of the strangest things that I've made in a while. And
right.
it's a two-headed doll. And she's got
Oh,
it's like one on top of the other. She doesn't have like arms, they're just kind of like little gathers and puffs on the sleeves, and she has this
right.
little veil and a very long skirt.
Yeah,
Um, I mean, I've been doing dolls like this, but I'd never thought about stacking a head like this, and I draw. There's a recurring drawing that I'll do a lot where it's just a bunch of heads stacked on top of each other. So I was like, why not bring that off into this doll world?
Yeah.
And so I just
That's
stacked patterns, and it was really fun. It was actually really fun. I might do some more of these.
I was going to ask, what is this? Is there a story behind it, or is it just kind of let's try that?
Well, I do poetry too. And one of the things I do whenever I go to a market is I put up my typewriter, and someone gives me a word, and I'll give them a poem for $1. And how it started out is I was painting my poems onto these things, and I had this random sketch in my sketchbook that I'd done of multiple heads, like all down the page, and in one single line, and I painted that, and then I wrote a poem on it, and it was like the first one of those that I ever sold, and then people really liked that, like, look, I guess, or I don't know. I really liked it, and so I started doing it more and more, and I don't know why I never thought about bringing it over into the doll world until just like the other day, and then I was like, well, you know what, I should try this out, and it was really fun and easy, and I really liked it a lot, and it's just something that, like, I just played around with. I just like to just kind of, everything I do creatively is a lot of extemporaneous, like projection. I don't know what you would call that. It's very visceral, of the moment, like whatever I'm getting out there. And so if I'm sketching, it can be very just like random and sporadic. And there's definitely, if you go through some of my different phases or whatever, there's recurring themes and images and stuff like that. And that was especially a phase where I was drawing lots of heads, lots of faces, all in one page and everything like that. And so it's always exploring myself, exploring the possibilities of what I can make in the three-dimensional world.
No, that's really awesome. And it's definitely something strange that we haven't seen before. So thank you so much for sharing that. I really appreciate it. So you're welcome. So Casey, we've got one last question for you. Okay. So lastly, is there anything you'd like to add? Is there anything you'd like to say to other male doll collectors out there?
Just have fun. Just have fun with it. Don't care so much what other people think, because ultimately it's for you. And if you aren't doing what you love at the end of the day, then it's not worth doing. And just have fun with it. That's all I can, that's all I can ever recommend,
Yeah, and not worry what other people think, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's the name of the game. It's just be yourself 100%, and don't apologize for it.
Definitely. I think that's brilliant. Casey, thank you so much for coming on and doing this Boys with Dolls interview. Really, really appreciate it. It's nice to meet new people. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me. It was lovely to meet you too.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can play with dolls too. Dun, 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 dun.